Yeah? All right. Love it. On the fly, no banter. The only banter is where's Dan Doucet, who knows more than us. He knows where he is. Welcome back, guys and gals, and dogs and cats, and whoever is listening, and whatever you call yourself. Thank you for joining us on Switchcast tonight. I am your host, Doug Tabbutt. I am happy to be with you tonight, and we're going to be chatting it up. We're going to be talking about some recent things in automotive news. There's stuff every week that is interesting and confounding and hilarious. We're going to touch on EVs a little bit, some scams, a little bit of Hurricane Ian, and some market updates, and of course our props and flops of the week. So we're happy you are here tonight. I'm happy I'm here. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy interacting with the audience that's here, and also you guys all online. So if you'd like to participate tonight, you can call in live, 216-294-4124. I put that on loop. All right. You can call in live, 216-294-4124. You can post your comments, statements, questions, threats, whatever in the flow of wherever you're watching live, namely YouTube and Facebook. We are broadcasting to both places thanks to our sponsor, Boxcast, which makes it super easy. So, again, thank you all for joining us. So, those of you who are watching on the video will get a little extra special things tonight. We're going to have some show and tell, I guess you might say. But you will also notice that I'm wearing a sweater and drinking wine, and usually I wear like a T-shirt and drink bourbon. And yeah, there's nothing wrong. It's just it's winter here, even though it's still October. It snowed this morning. It's 37-ish degrees out, and my dummy is driving a rear-wheel drive BMW with like 600 horsepower and summer tires. So friggin' fantastic. Yeah, I'm that guy who may end up in a ditch and then buy a Land Rover. That's actually, when I used to work at a Land Rover dealership, we'd sell a ton of Land Rovers like the first snow of the year. And we had a sister store, BMW dealership next door. And people had no concept of snow tires. So they'd have these BMW 5 and 7 series that were rear-wheel drive and or all-wheel drive, but on summer tires. They'd put them into a ditch or not be able to get out of their driveway. They'd bring them in and trade them in. And we had multiple people come in and go, I'll buy a Land Rover, but only if I can just leave my BMW here, basically, for the winter. We're like, yeah, sure. Park it out back. Take a new Land Rover. Yeah, first world problems. Instead of buying snow tires, I'll just buy another Land Rover. So, yeah, some fun stuff tonight. Where do I want to begin with this? Let's start with some interesting transactions of the week. So everybody's talking about the market. It's a hot topic. It's the opposite of last year. The market is falling. I'm not going to say it's a Paul Walker movie, that it's falling fast and furiously. Why do they call it? Why is fast an adverb and it's not fastly? But if you say furious and not furiously, you get chided by grammar Nazis.
Not entirely sure that's the point you were trying to get to, but
it's a side point. I was homeschooled, all right? Anyway, I'm not a grammar Nazi. I'm alt-right. It's getting warm in here already. Tyler Sanders.
I might need a little bit more whiskey to deal with this.
Tyler Sanders, who drives a... I always want to call it aubergine. That's purple. What's the green that you love?
The Aventurine?
Aventurine,
yeah.
Thank you. Who drives an Aventurine 968 is here on camera, off mic. No, off mic, on camera. Mark Spence is off mic. You can hear him from 8 feet away. He'll be relaying your questions, trying his best to read your usernames.
Yeah, please. If I screw something up, I'm sorry, but woof.
Oh my gosh, I do have to take off my sweater. I'm having too much fun already. Woo. Too sexy for my shirt. Too sexy for my shirt, so sexy it hurts.
Say Wine Doug is interesting on the podcast.
Do 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 do.
Ethan is gonna get in here and shut us down. If this keeps up.
Oh, Ethan's watching the viewer count just go down. Okay, we're gonna talk about cars. I swear we're gonna talk about cars. Oh, the other thing I want to acknowledge, if anyone cares or notices, usually I have these fancy in-ear monitors that were custom molded for my ears, which is a whole different story. It's because I have child-sized ears, but I use that as an excuse if my wife says that I'm not listening. I say it's a fact. My audiologist says I have child-sized ear canals, so I can't hear. But on a serious note, I've been struggling with some fairly serious tinnitus for the past few years, and I thought it was mold related, but it has come back recently, and I think it may be related to my in-ear monitors, even though they're supposed to protect my hearing by insulating me from like other noise. So I'm trying regular headphones to see if I can sleep tonight. So the problems of getting old. So not that anyone really cared, but I'm gonna say it because I'm here and it's a thing. So I don't like headphones. They look ridiculous and they mat down my hair. Honestly, I used to think it was the cause of my balding. I was blaming the headphones like
Did you
being
wear them
here.
that much?
What's that?
Did you wear them that much?
No, but it's just I noticed it because it matted my hair down. It made me see my hair was thinning, and I'm like, it's my headphones. I'm gonna stop wearing headphones and get in-ear monitors. Yeah, no, it's the hormones or lack of hormones or whatever causes that. So, okay, market updates. You came here for the cars, not for the jokes, but you're gonna get both. So there's been a lot of reserve not met sales on Bring a Trailer and P car market. That's been kind of everybody's gauge of the market, and I get that comment a lot. Oh, did you see all the reserve not met sales out there? But Bring a Trailer isn't the only market, and there's very high sell-through rates at the big in-person auctions still. So there's segments of the market that are very strong, but there was an interesting one this week. A 2,000-mile Carrera GT that was very, very clean, and it no sailed at $1.6 million. There's no stories. This was an excellent example. It was represented by one of the best dealers. It was Cultivated Collector, and it was serviced by the best guy, Rapazzi Motorworks, who was a previous guest on the show. So 1.6 is certainly a lot for a Carrera GT if we're talking pre-2020 prices, but that is good 10% down off of what that car would have sold for 6 months ago. And some people, maybe myself included, said that the supercars would be somewhat insulated from this. But for some odd reason, the Carrera GTs are coming off a little bit. Now, other supercars are not. Lamborghinis are hot. Big dollar Ferraris are hot. There seems to be no ceiling for those. But I thought that was an interesting transaction. However, the market it's like there's niches of the market that are insulated from each other. The same day, another well-known seller on Bring a Trailer pulled a world record price for a BMW Z8 at $445,000, a non-Alpina car. $445,000 for a BMW Z8. In a quote unquote recession, in a sliding market, they set a world record for a BMW Z8. But it was topaz blue with red interior. So it was the rarest color combo. And blue ones in the past couple years, if you look at the Bring a Trailer results, the blue ones have far exceeded any other Z8 sale other than Alpina cars. So we talk about cars as investments and people trying to predict like what cars will be the next big thing. I say forget cars, just pick the color, right? So if you could predict what colors would be popular when, you'd be really, really rich. So 10 years ago, nobody gave a rip about burgundy cars or blue cars or any cars in a color. They wanted red Ferraris and silver and white Porsches. And people wouldn't buy green GT3 RSs. Yeah, how that has changed.
Can we go back to that? I'd love to buy one.
Yeah, right. So I loved it because I loved and hated it because as a dealer I'd buy what I liked and I loved the cool colors. So I had a blue Pazzi Ferrari 430. I had a TDF 575 on Crema. I had a Rosso Rubino 599. I had all these colors that nobody friggin' gave a rip about. And now the colors, the burgundies, the blues, are pulling huge, huge premiums. Look at Midnight Blue 4 GT versus the rest of the colors, except, I guess, yellow. Now the question there is it the color itself that drives up the value or the rarity? Because if it's the latter, if it's the rarity, then that kind of chaps my ass. Because then you have people buying something that they don't love just because it's rare. Meanwhile, those of us plebeians, commoners out here who love blue and burgundy and aventure in green, Tyler, are getting outbid by people who don't even like the color. They just want it for the bragging rights of, well, this color is one of 17 produced in 1992 with gray interior.
I'm over here looking at pictures of the Z8, not even seeing what's going on.
I am making fun of Tyler because that's what he has, but I'm not making fun of Tyler because that's not why he cares about it. He loves that color. But you have collectors buying stuff up, again, based on trends of rarity, which is valid, but I guess all's fair in love and war, but I'm curious how much people's tastes are influenced by what other people think, right? So blue has always been popular on Z8s, but really not always because it wasn't popular when they came out because it was the rarest color. Nobody wanted it when it was new. Same thing with the green on the GT3 RS. It's the second rarest color, but now it's worth 100,000 more than any other color. So, I don't know. Everyone loves green now, I guess. But, I don't know. Maybe they don't really. Maybe, I don't know. Do people go out in their garage with a glass of wine, like taking in a fluorescent frog, be like, oh, that green is just, oh, it's so great? Or do they get their jollies off of posting online how they have one of 53 green ones in North America? I think the latter is really it. It's the Corvette. My Corvette is best Corvette. It's rare syndrome that Porsche people eschew. Like, it's, yeah. You look like you have something to say.
I don't know.
Tyler.
I'm conflicted because there's a couple of cars that they didn't make very many green ones of that I would like very much, and if I had the money, I'd pay over market for them.
But it's because you really love green.
Yes.
Okay.
And this Z8
What
is
are they?
gorgeous.
Did they make a green Z8?
No.
I don't think they did.
It's the GT3s.
Okay.
996 and there's probably a couple 997s too.
Yeah.
Various shades of green. That's the gold, but I don't know if it'll ever come up for sale, and there are not many. This Z8
GT
is
Vault could
interesting.
tell you exactly how many and what color 996 and 997 GT3s were in green.
GT Vault just knows everything.
It does. We'll have to ask them next week. Well, okay, but so back to the Z8. An 18,000-mile black over Crema Z8 just ended on P-Car Market yesterday, and it ended at $180K.
Well, and that's where I was kind of getting, like, this doesn't strike me as I just really want the color combo price. This strikes me as I want to look at it and tell people how rare it is price. Because you're paying 3 times as much for a color combo? That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I can't. I just sold GT Vault just sold a Vesuvio GT3 RS. It's a one of one, and it was a higher mileage example, but it went for big money because of that color. And, like for me, I'm like, I love the color, but I'm not going to pay 100 to 150 grand more for it. Like, I want to, maybe if I had uber bucks and just that was nothing to me, then sure I would, but is it because the guy loves the color or because he wants to say he has one of one? That's the real question.
Yeah, and I feel like it's more of the I have the one of one. Like, I don't know. Could be that if I had gobs of money, I'd go find the people with the green GT3s and offer them silly money to just get them to sell it to me.
Just because you want green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I could probably just wrap or paint a car with a rebuilt title or something and get essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a significant amount of money for a Z8.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll look at some more here, but the takeaway from this, if you want to go do other things tonight, watch the baseball game or whatever is going on. The takeaway from this, in all what's going on with the market, doing wacko things, maybe the colors will be a good long-term strategy. Maybe they won't. Maybe blue will wear off as a fad and people will want, gray. I don't know. But the timeless strategy, what I always tell customers, is to buy good cars, right? That's not just like a good example of a car, but like don't buy weird, oddball, crazy stuff unless like you just like it. But as an investment strategy, which it pains me to say, you buy a good car and you look at inherent value and relative value, right? So what that means is you look at a car that's $200,000 and you don't say, well, what was this worth last year, or what might this be worth next year, or what does everybody else think? You look at it and say, what else can I buy for this money? Like, what am I getting for $200,000, and what other experience could I get? Trying to think of a good example of that, of like a hyped up car, but let's take an Acura NSX for example. That's one sold today for like $180,000. I look at that and I go, the NSX is an unbelievable car, but what else can I get for $180,000? I can buy a '97 Dodge Viper GTS, a Corvette C5, like a BMW M Roadster, and have money left over. Is the NSX better than all three of those and money in the bank? Probably not. Now, does that mean the NSX is overvalued or the Viper and the Corvette are undervalued? I don't know, but that's how you evaluate it. You look at it and you go, what is something worth overall? Where's the inherent value? And don't worry about the short-term trends, because if you try to time the market, you're probably going to time it wrong. So, my advice is look at inherent value, look at relative value, make your decisions on that. Don't follow the herd, because if you do, you'll get trampled. Yes, I wrote that in advance. All right, let's go to a commercial break, and then we'll come back with more gems from Doug Tabbutt.
All right, Switchcast is brought to you by Celebrity Machines. Celebrity Machines offers more than 250 different screen-accurate license plates as they appeared in movies and TV shows like Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, The Fast and the Furious, Breaking Bad, and so many more. Celebrity Machines also makes our dealer insert plates as well as our commemorative 2539 plates from the fastest cannonball run ever. Visit celebritymachines.com for more info and use promo code SWITCHCAST to save 25.39% at checkout.
Thank you, Tyler, and thank you, Celebrity Machines, for keeping us on the air. We are back with you live, and if you'd like to join us, you can call in 216-294-4124 and pontificate away, but only if you have something meaningful to say or a good question, or you can post your comments wherever you're watching live, and Ethan will get those over to Tyler if they're any good, and Tyler will ask them of me. So, yeah, do we have any questions on the docket, or should we go back into the market discussion?
Let's go back into the market discussion.
Okie
Give
dokie.
Ethan more time to do his job.
Ethan's not paying attention yet. We usually do questions later on. So we've been talking about, well, speaking of Ethan doing his job, Ethan's been doing an incredible job with social media lately. So he's making me appear funnier than I am by fantastic editing and putting some stuff up on the Instagram Reels and TikToks and all that. But one of the funniest things to me is the comments that come through. And I recently did a highly satirical video making fun of millennials and Porsche people, and basically like it's this character I created that lasted all of 3 videos, but it was like this expert that claimed to know everything and was doing a commercial about a car but actually knew nothing. It was just pontificating on and on about stuff that was totally nonsensical. And I pronounced the car, it's a 911 Millennium Edition. That was a Millennial Edition. That's what I actually confused in the video, and I pronounce it Porsche over and over again, very obviously. Like the entire video was satirical. And on Instagram, I literally just got one right before the show started. I have probably 7 or 8 and counting people very upset trying to correct me, saying it's pronounced Porsche. And I'm like, man, way to identify yourself as not getting dry humor at all. Like the whole thing is satire. You think yeah. Ethan even put it in big bold letters, Porsh, flashed it on the screen every time I said it. Oh, people on the internet are awesome. They never cease to entertain and excite. So we were talking about vehicles as investments, if you're just joining us. And that really is a misnomer. Unless your timing is great, and that's not an investment, that's day trading, or you pick exactly the right car and hold it for a long term. But for the people who think timing is investing with cars, or that they can time it, right? A 2011 Boxer Spider, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest driving cars that Porsche has made. And it was in my top 11 picks under 100K on VinWiki a while back. And it's on my short list. It's a fantastic car. So a really, really nice example, 4,000-mile car, buckets, manual, good options list, sold on Bring a Trailer in March for $102,000. That was a high watermark for a Boxer Spider. And I think it was probably worth all of that and then some at the time. But if you add the $5,000 buyer fee and another $7,000 in tax, because it was a private owner, you're at 112, 14 grand. Last week, the exact same car sold again on Bring a Trailer via a dealer for 92 grand, and they definitely had some commission in there. So you figure the guy probably sold it for 88. So that means it costs a guy over 20 grand to own it for 7 months. And people want to talk about cars as investments. Everyone wants to show you the data points that are flashy, but nobody talks about those ones where the people just get their butts handed to them. And I don't want that to happen to anybody, but that is the reality of car ownership, especially short-term car ownership. Like the less time you own a car, typically, unless your timing is perfect with the market, the more it costs you, because you're buying at retail and you're trading in at wholesale. So, and sales tax. A couple more interesting transactions, not necessarily talking about market here. Now we're just talking about why certain cars go for more money. But I follow both the Callaway C16s and the Corvette C6 RSs. They're both limited production, bespoke, I'll call them coach-built Corvettes. So the Callaway C16 is essentially a homologation car built by Callaway Cars out of Connecticut. It is fully coach-built. It's a different body. It is a totally redone leather and or Alcantara interior with stitching. I mean, it's totally not GM interior anymore. I think the leather is sourced out of Germany. It's absolutely beautiful car. Looks a little bit like a 599. They have flying buttresses in the rear, very subtle ones, and single round rear tail lights. And some of them are supercharged. All of them have a upgraded engine, and they're beautiful. They made 16 of them total. And those haven't really caught their wind yet. One of them sold last week for 120 grand with 800 miles on it. The exact same car sold in September of 2020 for $115K. So even with the market going up from 2020 till now, that car basically held even. And I thought it would have gone for a lot more. Meanwhile, a Corvette C6 RS, which is to me kind of like the competitor to the C16, they only made 7 of those. It was built by Pratt & Miller, who does the engineering for the Corvette C6R Le Mans car. It uses the same carbon fiber body panel. So both of them are essentially street cars homologated from race cars. Has a K-Tech 8.2-liter naturally aspirated engine, 600 horsepower, 600 pound-feet of torque. It's ridiculous. It's probably not quite as reliable as the Callaway, and it's not as smooth looking. Like, it's got fat fenders, and it's impressive. It's muscly, but it's not as smooth lines. I think the Callaway overall is a better looking car. However, neither of them, I mean, the Callaway and the C6 RS were like unloved for a long time. I remember having a couple C6 RS back in like 2009, 10, couldn't give them away. I sold one for like $115,000 in 2010, and the C16s were about the same price. So you figure 10 years ago, they were trading at identical prices. But a C6 RS that was, let's see, in January 2020, one was bid to $102,500, and it sold for $361,000 last month. So maybe that was an outlying transaction, although from the private sales I've heard about, it wasn't. Why? I don't have the answer to this. Maybe some of you do. Why is a C6 RS basically 3 to 4x what a C16 was, when 2 years ago and 10 years ago they were trading at the same price? They're both special, bespoke, homologation Corvettes that are incredibly rare. I mean, that's what, again, that goes back to inherent value, right? So I look at the C16 and go, well, screw it. I'm going to buy a C16 because I'd rather have 3 of those than one C6 RS.
No, that's wild. I wonder if it's because the C6R has the actual, or something similar to the actual race car body from a front-engine Corvette, and now that isn't a thing anymore. And I mean, it's way after the fact.
But the Callaway C12 also has a body from the Callaway C12R. Now we're talking about C12, not C16, but they're in the same family, same lineage. C12 is C5, and the C16 is based off of the C6. And the C16, Callaway also ran a car in Le Mans that it's similar to. I don't get it.
That's crazy. I'm almost more depressed, though, that somebody sold a C16 with only 800 miles. The entire purpose of those cars, and I'm going to try not to get on too much of a high horse, is to be driven. They're exotic, like, sports cars based on race cars, and 800 miles.
It's an entire discussion. The point of all cars is to be driven.
It's just crazy to me, because they've got to be. Have you driven a C16?
Mm-hmm.
And you've obviously driven the C6. Like, those have got to be amazing cars to drive.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you want to experience that, especially if you're dropping over $100,000 on it?
I'd be scared, honestly, of damaging the carbon fiber.
That's true. You can't get any more, probably.
I'm sure you can. Pratt & Miller is still around, but, I don't know, you have spare body panels just laying around. I don't know what the lead time is on that. That's a very real consideration when you have a car like that. Oh, you made 7 of them. Great. How long for an extra fender? I hit a deer. I get it. I get it. Transitioning to Hurricane Ian. So we are not going to make light of this. It is a very sad situation for a lot of people. I think I may have my numbers wrong, but I believe it was 380,000 cars were destroyed in Hurricane Ian. That's a lot of cars, especially when we're already in a supply chain crisis. It's easing up, uh, but I have to use this for political expediency to get my point across. Electric vehicles are exploding because the batteries are corroding from the water, shorting out, and catching on fire. This is not the first time this has happened. Reference back to Hurricane Sandy, when Fisker, essentially what bankrupted Fisker was a whole ton of their Fisker Karmas were at the port in New Jersey. Hurricane Sandy came in, batteries shorted out, they all burned up. Womp womp. Yeah. So, not that it's, whoop-de-doo, so a car catches on fire. The problem is, when an electric vehicle catches on fire, it burns, and it burns, and it burns, and it burns. And this is something that is one of my main arguments against EV cars in terms of common adoption, is nobody is talking about this. So Haggerty did a really, really good article about the ship that went down that had 4,000 Porsches, Ferraris, and Lamborghinis and Audis on it, the Felicity Ace, right? So that made international news. Every guy was talking about it. Every Porsche guy we knew had a car on that ship, right? Like Chris Benby, Matt Farah, I think Chris Durden also. Like a ton of people had cars on that ship. The reason that was such a big deal is because it burned and it burned and it burned because of all the EVs. So the type of batteries they use burn way hotter than a normal fire, even than a normal electrical fire. And it burns for freaking ever. So Tesla actually has an emergency publication that they put out with the vehicle that goes to fire departments that talks about how to fight a fire with, on a Tesla fire. And in the manual, it says that you should plan to have extra water on hand. I'm like, how does a city plan to have extra water on hand for a guy who buys a Tesla? Right? So the problem with that ship is there are so many EVs on board, it kept burning and they couldn't put the fire out. And my concern is what happens when we have, when we have mass adoption of EVs, like, Governor Gavin Newsom is mandating and President Biden is trying to mandate, and, the PM of the UK and all that, they're all declaring that we're going to have a certain number of EVs on the road, which you can't do. That doesn't work. However, what happens when parking garages have 25% of their cars filled up with EVs and they have a fire? This is no longer a normal fire. This is a big friggin' deal. It's not being talked about, and it's a really important thing to talk about, because that is a very, very big drawback to having EVs mass adopted. That's not a very good grammatically correct sentence, but the homeschooler in me is writhing in pain. It's not a good scenario. Anyway, if you want to read the entire article, it's on Haggerty.com. It's called "Avoidable Contact: Electric Cars Are So Hot Right Now," and it's a good talking point if you want to talk with your pro EV friends. It's actually, we will not store EVs or hybrids in our storage facility because I'm concerned about that. I don't want to deal with that, nor do I want the fire department to have to deal with that. Yeah. Speaking of Hurricane Ian, there's a lot of flood cars that are going to be coming on the market from this. And every time there's a hurricane or a flood and a bunch of cars get flooded, people start talking about scams. Like, oh man, you got to watch out for cars from Southern Florida, watch out for cars from Naples. You're going to be getting scammed. People are going to be trying to pass off flood cars. So the question is, how do you not get scammed? It's actually really pretty friggin' easy. Nearly all of the cars that got flooded were claimed on insurance. And their titles get branded, and the insurance companies buy them back, and they sell them through Copart or another wholesale auction, and dealers buy them. Maybe they fix them up. Maybe they part them out. But all you friggin' gotta do is look at the history on Carfax and check the title history and go, oh, branded title, salvage, flood damage. Oh, my goodness. You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to look at every friggin' car that's ever been registered in South Florida and go, oh, I wonder if this was in a flood.
Be more concerned about the salt in the air damage and rust.
Well,
and
yeah, okay, that's a concern.
Truthfully.
I bought a Plymouth Prowler a number of years ago, and I got a steal on it because it was in southern Louisiana somewhere during Hurricane Katrina. But it was a clean title car, never an insurance claim. The same guy had owned it, and the guy ran it by like 4 other dealers. I'm like, how am I getting this good of a deal? Why will nobody else buy this? And no other dealer would touch it because it noted on Carfax, this vehicle was registered in an area declared a FEMA, disaster area, whatever. I'm like, so what? Maybe he lived on the hill. Maybe he had it in off-site storage. Like, it didn't take out all of southern Louisiana. So, yeah, but nobody else would touch it because of that. And I'm like, okay, this is really easy. I'm going to go look at it and see if there's, like, corrosion in the floorboards or there's wiring issues. Nope, looks good. Okay, it wasn't flooded. And, oh, by the way, there's no insurance claim. Like, I get it that when people will damage their cars on tracks, have a fender bender, have it wrecked, like, they'll fix it off the books and pay cash because they don't want the diminished value from Carfax. And that affects high-end vehicles more than run-of-the-mill cars. However, flood damage is a totally different thing. No car guy in his right mind is going to mess with trying to fix flood damage off the books because the water gets in the wiring. It gets in everywhere, especially salt water, and you have no idea where it goes and what's going to be affected. So, yes, you may have some dealers or some people trying to pass off cars that they didn't take the insurance claim on, but it's going to be very rare. I hardly ever see it. In 17 years of business, I've seen a lot of people scamming. I've seen a lot of fast ones pulled. I very rarely see people trying to pass off flood cars without there being a history of flood damage. Although there was something on Wholesale Car Club Facebook page this week, and somebody was advocating for their friend, and a dealer, gotta love dealers, they had this guy at the signing table, and the sales manager comes in as they're signing the paperwork and was like, oh yeah, by the way, this car has previous flood damage, and just kind of like walks away. But again, the buyer didn't check the friggin' Carfax. Like, he can blame the dealer. Absolutely. There is a legal requirement for dealers to disclose those things. 100%. That's a shady-ass friggin' dealer that, However, caveat emptor, buyer beware, do your due diligence. At least look at the Carfax. It's not a be-all, end-all, but it's usually a be-all, end-all for salvage friggin' titles. Because it either says salvage or not salvage. Flood damage or not flood damage. Anyway, that's how not to get scammed on a flood damage car. Just don't buy one with a friggin' flood title.
Maybe also just get a PPI. To an extent. It depends on where. You may not get a PPI on a Toyota Corolla, but
yes.
Still.
Yeah, look, the other way to do it is look at the friggin' car you're buying. Usually you can tell if it's at a salt water up to its steering wheel. Commercial break.
Alrighty. Switchcast is also brought to you by Boxcast. Boxcast is a live streaming company based in Cleveland, Ohio, and they serve broadcasters and viewers around the world. Their founders launched Boxcast back in 2013 with one purpose: to make people part of the experience. If you're looking to live stream your podcast, church service, car show, sporting event, wedding, or even your cannonball attempt, Boxcast is an easy, flexible live streaming platform for organizations. Boxcast is so easy, we're broadcasting this show with a phone. Head over to switchcars.com/Boxcast for your free trial.
I should note that our amazing producer, Ethan, figured out a way around iRig. We had a lot of issues with iRig last week. iRig was very difficult, and it kept failing, and iRig's customer service was difficult. I'm saying iRig a lot because, yes. Anyway, so he just put like this conglomeration of cables together, and
I have been playing Count the Adapter over here when you're talking. Like,
and it works. Anyway, continue on with Nathan's Detailing.
Nathan's Detailing is a proud sponsor of Switchcast. Nathan's Detailing is a company in Cleveland, Ohio that provides mobile detailing services for individuals and dealerships. They offer PPF and ceramic coating installations as well. With 800-plus Google reviews and an impressive 4.9 rating, Nathan's Detailing is the go-to shop for all of your detailing and protection needs. With Nathan's Detailing, convenience is key. Their mobile detailing technicians bring the power, water, and supplies to your home or work and detail your car on site. Check out the link at... Ooh, I don't have a link.
In the description. Check out the link in the description, in the video description.
Nathan's Detailing. This smiles for you.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Nathan's Detailing. Thank you to all our sponsors. And thank you to our listeners and viewers. Again, if you'd like to join us, you can call in 216-294-4124 or post your comments, questions, threats, or statements in the comment flow of wherever you're watching live. Just got a good one referencing that satirical Porsche video I made earlier. His comment was just, "Is this supposed to be funny?" Yes. Yes, it is. You sound like my wife. It just gives me the eye. Is that a joke? Yeah, well, it was.
I really enjoyed the hearty chuckle from Ethan in the other room that we heard through the wall.
I mean, fine. You don't think it's funny. But if you recognize it's supposed to be funny, that it's satire, and you don't get that I'm purposefully mispronouncing Porsche, like, I don't know, some things not there. My wife just texted me, ha. Well, I know who one of the viewers is tonight.
We've at least got one.
Oh, gosh, I've totally lost my train of thought. Tyler, help me out here.
I'd like to give a shout out to Joe Man for sending over the tip. Thanks, man, for that. We do really appreciate it. I do have some questions here for when Doug is finished dying a bit.
I need help.
Give you something to think about. Our friend from Croatia is back with the username I will not try again to pronounce and butcher. They say they pronounce Lancia as Lancia just to annoy fanatics as well.
Ah, okay. I pronounce Lancia. I think I pronounce it wrong, not on purpose all these years.
Isn't it
Tony
Lancia?
K is the expert on how to pronounce it. It's like Lancia or something like that.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alrighty, in relation to all the flood cars, Alan M. asks, any Bugattis for Ed?
I think he wishes. I don't know. There's a Koenigsegg Regera flooded. There's been a bunch of run-of-the-mill McLarens and a bunch, I shouldn't say run-of-the-mill, but, mass production versions, as well as a couple P1s. There's been a lot of Porsches. One of our customers is active in the Paradise Region Porsche group down there. They look like a lot of fun. They have events like twice a week. And I think 28 of their members' cars got flooded. Yeah,
Yeesh.
a lot of cars.
Alrighty, Henry C. Says, I'll be honest, I just joined. Has anyone asked Doug what he thought about Broad Arrow Auctions' auction of Jim Taylor's collection?
I did not look at the results. There was some pretty neat cars in there. I didn't follow them super closely because they weren't right in my like niche of cars. There's particular stuff I follow, namely Porsche GT cars, stick shift European sports cars, supercars, um, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of muscle cars in there, which is kind of outside my area of expertise slash interest. I like them, but no, it looked like a really, really neat collection, well curated. Broad Arrow has certainly come onto the market with, with hurricane force. Stop me if that's too soon. I hadn't heard of them last year, and they made a big splash at Monterey, and I think already sold out. I think Haggerty bought them for like $100 million or something ridiculous. I mean, they just from zero to hero, that company. Yeah.
I think that's the dream, to start something that is good enough that in like a few years, Haggerty's going to pay you gobs of money for it, and then you just don't have to stress about it anymore.
It should be somewhat easy right now because Haggerty's buying everything automotive related up because they need to continue growing because they're publicly traded now.
Alrighty, Julian H has a couple of questions. First up, they say, I think the reason why the valuations of cars is so puzzling is because the market highlights the value of consumers' preferences. It's not a question, I guess, but
it's not a threat either. It sounds like a statement. Say that again.
Julian thinks the reason why the valuations of cars is so puzzling is because the market highlights the value of consumers' preferences.
Interesting. I mean, yes, but their preferences are always changing. And I feel like the majority of consumers don't actually know what they want. They are influenced by other people. It's the herd mentality. It's why markets have such swings. It's because when one person does something, everybody else jumps on board or follows.
Well, that's I was going to say something earlier about just buying the car that you want because you want it, and that's something that we talk about here all the time, but that's not what these people are
A lot of
for.
people can't. I shouldn't say people. I don't mean to even make fun of my customers because we exist in an awesome segment where most of our customers are well-informed enthusiasts who know what they want and why they want it. But there are a lot of people who can't get out of their own head and only can do what the forums say, or they're totally reactionary when it comes to any vehicle transaction.
For sure. Julian did follow that up with an actual question this time. I see a question mark at the end. What do you see happening to the, quote, boomer car market, 50s and 60s classics, in the future as that generation of enthusiasts die off? That was you kept that going for a while. That was impressive.
I could have gone longer. So there's some companies out there, I've said this before, I'll say it again, that are making really, really cool resto mods. So they're taking cars that have timeless design, the 55 T-Bird, the 69 Camaro, et cetera, 63 Vet, and they're building resto mods. So they're appealing to a new generation of buyers who want a car that looks cool, looks retro, but isn't awful to drive. And the resto mods of that generation are bringing more than original cars. And I think that's going to be the future. But that's also a limited market. That doesn't do anything about, the 77 Monte Carlos, right, that are just bad cars. So I can say that because I had one. Yeah, a lot of those cars are just going to go by the wayside because people are going to realize that they just really aren't any good. They're not pretty. The 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s cars, while those cars have gone down in value as their owners have died off, they are so timeless and so beautiful that I don't think you can ever replace it, and people are starting to appreciate them as art. But, the 50s, 60s, 70s cars, man, they weren't that good, and they weren't that pretty. They're big, heavy hunks of metal that don't go well or stop well, and there's going to be a few models that survive that are appreciated, and the rest I think are just going to go.
Alrighty, Kentucky Cobra 76, completely flipping this to the other side, asks, do you think that the R35 is a good car?
Define good. I mean, yeah, they're reliable, they're fast, performance-wise, they're incredible. They're way ahead of their time. Can drive them all year round. You can modify the heck out of them. You can pull 1,000 horsepower. They're great track cars. They're great drag cars. Like, they do a lot of things well. Top Gear Italian car word swear jar, like they have no soul and passion. They're kind of boring. They're machines. They're hero cars. So they're not exciting in that respect. But yeah, they're fantastic cars.
All right, a quick Silverman Blue asks, is car flipping really viable for someone who is not mechanically inclined? Not so much for profit, but to experience a lot of different vehicles.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to fix cars up in order to make a profit on them. You can buy really, really good cars. It's more about knowing what the values are. Even if you're mechanically inclined, that doesn't automatically mean you get a good deal. You still have to know how to buy a car. The age-old real estate saying is you make your money on the buy. So you have to know how to buy cars. And part of that is understanding cars and having some mechanical understanding to know if that noise is, if it's valve ticking because the engine shot or if it's valve ticking because the car needs warmed up, So you have to know some things, but you don't have to be able to fix cars to be able to flip them for a profit.
Well, and we've got a mutual friend who's made an appearance on the podcast once or twice, Bailey down in Texas now, who has done that quite well, I think. I mean, he's fairly mechanically inclined. He does stuff himself, but he just knows how to find good deals.
Yep.
He's had tons of cars.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just have a mechanic.
That too.
But again, you still got to find, you got to buy it right, period.
Southeast Import is next. They're saying, thinking back to the great financial crisis, did collector car values fall sooner than housing? Housing began to recover in approximately 2012. When did the collector car market begin to recover?
About the same. I don't think it was. It was a protracted slump for cars. I think partly because they're not really real investments. People were buying real estate almost immediately because, that's a tried and true, land, real estate, stocks. Those are where investors put their money. So people were buying up houses right away, whereas cars were a luxury item. They weren't seen as investments in 2010 by the majority of the buying public. Even before the crash, they weren't really, it's not like it is now. The perception has changed. So it wasn't until like 2013, I'd say, that values really started to tick up. And then 14 and 15, it was a really big run up. Yeah, so it was a different mindset then.
And Sam S. Hey, Doug, have you ever heard of the Pikes Peak Hill Climb?
Heck yeah. I hiked Pikes Peak. And
you hiked it instead of driving a car up it?
Well, yes. I was out there with a group of people. But I rode in a van down it, and I was like, yeah, I'm on the Pikes Peak Road. Heck yes, I've heard of the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. Come on.
I feel like to have a proper car guy card, you have to know what that is. There's just certain motorsport events that are, like, huge.
I would like to go to that. I'm glad I didn't go this year because it was, like, fogged out, but I'd like to go watch that.
That would be cool. I'd like to go to Goodwood, too, for the Festival of Speed.
Yes.
Just to see the bananas stuff that shows up.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we didn't submit questions on Instagram or whatever, solicit questions beforehand, but it's been a while since we've done the Nuts for Sticks question of the week. And I do have one that he doesn't know he was competing for it. But anyway, Nuts for Sticks is a cool merch shop, nutsforsticks.com, where you can get shirts like the ever-popular Keep Your Woman But Switch Cars shirt, the Stegosaurus Rex t-shirt, and many others. And if you use discount code SWITCHCAST, you can get 10% off of your merchandise order. Again, that's nutsforsticks.com, the number 4, and use discount code SWITCHCAST for 10% off. The Nuts for Sticks question of the week, and he will get a free t-shirt. I think he might have gotten one a while back, but anyway, we're going with it. So we just got a new property. The story is up on VinWiki about I bought a dream garage with a detached house, but I put up a video and asked for people's suggestions on like what to do with it, how to decorate it, what cars to get. That was really, I already had the cars, but anyway, how to decorate it. And a really, really good suggestion from Brett Smith, I think that's the third, But Brett Smith, who's a regular listener and commenter, had an amazing suggestion. And he said, I would have each one of your friends bring a piece of automotive memorabilia that represents their carcane addiction and hang it on the wall. I think that would best express the kinship. And I like that because obviously I wanted to have friends over to celebrate the garage, but I didn't want to make it I didn't want to make it about me. It's a car guy thing, right? Like, I got a cool garage, I got a new car, let's check it out, whatever. We all share that joy. And I thought that was really, really neat suggestion because people, feel a pressure to bring a housewarming gift or garage warming gift, and I don't want that. I don't need anything, but at the same time, I think the best gifts and the best things are the things that have sentimental value and a connection to a person rather than just like, oh, look at this bottle of bourbon I bought that's 1,800 years old that there's only 7 of and I stood in line to get. But rather, like, look at this bottle of bourbon that my buddy Dan got me. So we're going to use that, actually. I'm having a garage warming party on Saturday, and I'm using that idea. So thank you, Brett, for that idea. As a thank you, you get your selection of a T-shirt from the Nuts for Sticks website. I did get a gift in advance here that is awesome, and I'm sorry to you people listening on the audio podcast. I'll try to describe it as best I can, but Myron Vernus, a good friend and crazy car collector, brought by this it's a official 1986 Corvette pace car. So it's a bright yellow Corvette convertible C4 Corvette, and he said, if anyone would like this or appreciate it, it would be you. And but it's not just a Corvette pace car. It is a Beam decanter, so it's filled with Jim Beam.
Is that what?
What?
Is that actually a decanter? Is there
a
little?
It's probably about as good of a decanter as the Corvette is a car, but yeah. Look, listen. That's Jim Beam in there, and it's sealed. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm not a collector type person. I'm going to open this, and we're going to drink it. I don't know when this was made, though. I hope it's not 1986.
When we open that to try to pour it, it's going to look like somebody spilled gasoline all over the side of their pace car and they're filling it up. There's going to be no way to get the alcohol out of there without spilling.
That's why I said it's not a very good decanter. Creation of James B. Beam Distilling Company, Genuine Regal, China, 1990. That's some old friggin' Jim Beam. This is either going to be like literally like drinking gasoline.
It's honestly probably going to be pretty good.
Oh, look, it comes with a
thank
cover.
goodness.
Yeah. I mean, if ever there was a situation for my Corvette is best Corvette because it's filled with whiskey.
Oh.
This thing is awesome. It's got like all the original papers and
I was saying there was
documents
so
and
many
stuff.
like things in the box with it. That's amazing.
Yeah. So we're gonna open this on Saturday and see how bad it is. Sorry, we're not opening it live on the show. This is a garage warming present, so we're gonna open it at the garage warming party. So thank you, Myron, for that. I think this wins preemptively. There is no Corvette as rare, or there's no car as rare as a Corvette pace car. All right, we are going to head over to the props and flops. It is that time of the night. The props and flops are brought to you by Switch Cars. Switch Cars is the enthusiast dealership where we buy, sell, consign, service, and store only cars that we like ourselves. Check out our hand-picked inventory at switchcars.com. Our pick of the week from Switch Cars inventory is a 2002 BMW 330ci with 98,000 miles and in a 5-speed manual. The reason it's our pick of the week is because Ethan, our producer, has a Nissan Murano that's not a cross cabriolet, and we've been trying to get him into a cool convertible stick shift. I don't think he knows how to drive stick yet. Well, I've taught him a little bit, but yeah, we're trying to make him a car guy. He started this podcast not as a car guy at all, and now he's a full-time marketer for a detailing company, and he's our producer. So he's like surrounded by cars all the time, and he's becoming one. But he needs a car that's cooler than his Murano. And we could even like put the Cross Cabriolet logo on the back of this thing. Anyway, if Ethan doesn't buy it, you can for only $9,500. That's right. A manual BMW convertible, reliable, fun, open air for $9,500. Hit us up if you're interested or if you think Ethan should buy it.
I mean, that's a heck of a lot cheaper than the Murano Cross Cab down the street.
Heck yeah, it
That's for
is.
sale.
It's cheaper than a Cross Cabriolet top repair. Oh, man, if a Cross Cabriolet gets hit by a hurricane, will it be salvage title? Or is it already salvage title because the top doesn't work? Can you have a double salvage? Flop of the week. There's a sign in a hotel. So Kia and Hyundai have been struggling with recalls due to cars catching on fire, but apparently thieves can steal these cars with a screwdriver and a USB cable. I don't know how this works. Somebody just posted a picture of the sign in the hotel, but it says, "Attention, Kia Hyundai owners. It has come to our attention that due to a design flaw in these cars, thieves are easily able to steal them with a screwdriver and a USB cable. While we do not claim any responsibility for guest vehicles, we would like to provide a deterrent for our guests and are providing theft deterrent devices, The Club, that engages the steering wheel and brake, making it much more cumbersome for thieves." This is hilarious that The Club is making a comeback. Does anybody remember those? Yes, it's like the thing that goes in your steering wheel and it locks it so you can't like turn it. And you have to have a key to open it,
I've only ever seen those in like old movies.
Or like a bolt cutter. I mean, if you have a set of bolt cutters, you can just snap them. Yeah. You have a 968. You should have one just to like put on for Radwood or Motor Vice or whatever. It's period correct.
I could even get it painted eventually to match my car.
I think they're all like red. Anyway, I used to have a Club. I used it. I'm dating myself, but I think it's hilarious that was their idea, that those are making a comeback. It would certainly flabbergast probably any of the new automotive thieves because most of them are juveniles and they know how to start, they can start a new Charger Challenger. You had a bunch of those stolen from the Hot Rod Power Tour because I guess all they need, like they can code a key or like something in like less than 2 minutes. I can't remember what it was, 2 minutes or 20 seconds, and they can code a key and take the car. So they have all these techie guys, but I bet if you just put a club, they'd be like, "What the frick is this? Is this the news? Is this a stick shift?"
Say in the day when a car can be stowed with a USB cable, I think it's time to go simple again. So they might be onto something.
Right. They're not offering to stick swap the Kias and Hyundais, though. That would also be a good theft deterrent device, but I might be above the hotel's pay grade.
And I don't know if I would want hotel employees swapping a transmission on my, even if it was just Hyundai or Kia.
It was $50 to rent the club, though. I think you can buy them for less than that.
Look, that's capitalism, baby. They're taking advantage of the market.
That's true. Props, yeah. Okay, prop of the week. Our good friend Bradley Brownell, automotive journalist and Crawford Museum curator, bought a 996 Turbo for an incredibly good deal in California and decided to drive it home on they looked like 20-inch wheels with really, really old corded tires. That should be the flop of the week. And he legit had not one, but 2 flat tires. He had to stop and buy a set of used tires and wheels and put them on and then go somewhere else. He's bought 2 different sets of wheels to get him to limp him across the country. But I give him props for not giving up. That's a car guy. You set out on a road trip and you fail and you keep going and you fail again and you keep going. That's the Cannonball spirit. So props to Bradley for continuing on. Anyway, that is all for tonight. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for the wonderful questions. Thank you for not making threats or silly statements. Maybe next week if I say something too offensive. But, I would like to thank Tyler for the banter and for reading off questions. I would like to thank my producer and call screener, Ethan Huffnagel. And I would like to thank our sponsors, Boxcast, Nuts for Sticks, Switch Cars, Celebrity Machines, and Stephen Holm Woodworking, Nathan's Detailing. Our bumper music is provided by Emily and Ivory. You can stream the full album on Spotify or SoundCloud. This episode will be available Friday in audio format wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening and participating, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. as we look forward to edifying, educating, and entertaining you on the drive of your life.